In the old days, we used to be able to touch it
Yeah.
and feel it. When you had
move
10,
it.
and when you had 10 large in your pocket,
Right.
you felt like a king.
Right.
Yeah.
And
now
it's literally just numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. And those numbers get you to your goal.
Yep.
And if you could start to think of money as that tool, you know, and if you start to put it, God knows your heart, right? So God knows my heart, God knows your heart. Thank God we have good hearts, or else I don't think we'd be alive anymore.
I agree.
Right? Because we want to help other people. I want to help people. That's the only reason I got my ass out of bed this morning and decided to come here.
Yeah, thank you, by the way.
Because I'm like, selfishly, I'm like, I don't want to come. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to talk about? Like, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
You know, am I going to talk about myself? Am I going to glorify the bad things I used to do? That's the one thing I want to be careful of. I'm not trying to glorify any of this behavior.
No, not at all. What you're doing is actually being a real man and actually telling your faults, which most real men at our age don't do, because they only tell you about how great they've done.
Right.
It's in my eyes, it's the men that actually can turn around and be like, this is a teaching moment for our kids, for somebody that we're going to help, because they're living this. There's so many kids out there living our dream.
Right.
And our failures.
Don't make the same mistakes. See, you know, so a little bit further down the road, here's what happens. We moved to Florida. Now we had a lot of money in the bank, right? Like, things were good. I sold my business. I have no worries now. I'm 38 years old. I've got 3 kids. I move into a beautiful house in a gated community. Yeah. So I get involved in a church for the first time here in Florida. And it's funny how God will come at you, right? Because God knows what'll get your attention. Even if you're far from him. Yeah. Right? He knows how to get your attention. So I had this business partner in New Jersey who turns out that he wasn't the best of the guys anyway, but he's the one that brought me to God. That's crazy. So here's the one thing I want you to understand. God will use anybody, anywhere, anytime. And it doesn't matter. He'll take them out of your life when they need to come out, and he'll put them in when they need to be there. Because you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? And God knows the purpose for every single relationship, right? Not that he's using people, but he has to have us. We're his hands and feet, right? So this guy calls me on the phone one day. I'm living in my nice house, comfortable in Florida now, retired, and well, not retired, semi-retired, you know, and sold my business. And I get this phone call from a business partner, and he says to me, yeah, I want to come help you expand that business in Florida that you know, I know you just moved there. And he says, now I knew he was very successful in New Jersey. Right. He said, I want to come out there and help you open a division out there. And I had gotten involved in a different line of business altogether, direct sales. Oh, okay. Network marketing was the line of business I got involved with.
When you first got down here?
Yeah, when I sold my business, I needed something to do.
Yeah, you were bored.
Right. Yeah. So a friend called me up one day when I was flying. I had to keep my business for a year and fly back and forth. So I was flying back and forth from Florida to New Jersey, and a friend called me up and he said, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing tonight?" I said, "Well, Ralph, it just so happens I'm flying back to New Jersey tonight. What'd you have in mind?" He says, "Do you look at other ways to make money outside of what you currently do?" And I said, "Well, I currently don't do anything. I just sold my business. So, yeah, I'm kind of open. What do you have in mind?" He goes, "Well, come on over. We're going to be talking about a new technology tonight." So I went over, and I brought a bottle of wine. I thought it was just going to be him and I sitting around shooting the breeze about whatever. It was a room full of guys sitting around a couch like this. The TV was on, and there was a video of Donald Trump playing on the TV.
Come on.
This is the business I was telling you about that I got involved in. Donald Trump was the spokesperson of the business. And so I'm at this meeting, and I don't even know why I'm there. I got there a little bit late, so the video was already playing, and I'm watching it, and they're talking about this opportunity and services and products. And I'm like, this looks great, you know. So anyway, I got involved in the business that night and flew back to Florida. Well, the guy that was doing the presentation that night was very well known in the industry. He had done very well for himself, and he's the guy that called me. And I'm sitting there on the couch with my wife, and I take the call, and he says, "Hey, I want to come down there and help you with your business." He says, I said, "That would be great." I said, "When do you want to come?" He goes, "I'll come down next week." He says, I'll stay Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And he said, "Set up some meetings. get me with some people, introduce me to some people, and I'll get your business moving.
Awesome.
I said, that sounds great. He says, but I only have one condition. I said, what's that? He goes, you got to go to church with me on Sunday. And I said, hold on a minute. I said, honey, this guy wants me to go to church with him on Sunday.
He's a wacko.
And she goes, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I like to make money, so I guess I'm going to church.
Right.
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that brings me to church that Sunday. And it's me and this big bald-headed guy from New Jersey sitting in church. We must have stuck out like a sore thumb, just the two of us sitting next to each other.
Right.
But he brings me into this church. Now, I had never seen anything like this in my life because I grew up, like I said, with the guy with the big hat and the robe and the water and the smoke.
Exactly.
I walk into this church, and there's a guy and a lady up on the stage talking. First of all, caught my attention, and it looks like my wife and I. I'm like, what's going on here? They're about our age.
Right.
Attractive lady, a guy that was in kind of good shape, and I'm like, what are they, why is there a guy and a lady up on stage talking at a church?
Right.
Next thing you know, there's a band come out and starts playing. Like, what in the world is this? So I really liked the church. And I went home and I told my wife about it. And I said, honey, this church was really cool. I said they played music, they had food. She said, what the hell, would you go to a soup kitchen or something?
Right. Yeah, because that's what you think about, like how we grew up.
Yeah,
right?
I said, no. I said, I can't even explain it to you. Now, my kids had never been to church in their life.
Right.
They're probably the ages of like 8 down to 3 at this point, right? So they come up to me and they're like, Daddy, will you take us to church? And I said, well, sure. I'd love to take you guys to church. How about next Sunday? Now, I was pretty much a workaholic.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, my addiction was work.
Yeah.
Kind of still is.
I hear you.
But so I had a strict rule. The rule was this: you had me, if you were my wife and my kids, from Saturday night at 6 o'clock till Sunday night at 6 o'clock. After that, don't know my name.
Oh, it was that bad.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And so my wife heard my idea about wanting to go to church on Sunday. She was less than thrilled.
Yeah.
Because that was our family time.
I mean, you were taken away from family.
You know what my wife says? She says, "Yeah, we're not going to waste our time at church on Sunday. Sorry." And I said, and my kids start begging her, "Mommy, please, can we go to church, please?" And I said, "Honey, please, let's do this. Let me take the kids to church Sunday morning, and I'll come back." Sunday afternoon, we'll have the biggest barbecue on the beach. I'll get tents. We'll do a barbecue. I'll stay out past 6 o'clock at night if you want me to, but just let me take the kids to church. Yeah. Yeah. So she agrees to it, and
Did she go to church with you?
No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't have it. No.
Yeah.
So we end up at church with I end up at church with the kids, and the kids come home and tell her all about it. They loved it. They had ping pong tables and foosball, and they had games and food and singing and dancing and all this stuff, right? And the kids sat through the whole message, and they were able to drink high C in their seats. You know, I mean, like, what the heck kind of church is this? You know. Yeah. So we go home and the kids are telling her about it. She's like, I don't understand. Mommy, will you please go with us next week? We get my wife there. I'm gonna tell you something. She is a stronger Christian than I am at this point in our life. It is unbelievable how God will work, right? So
is
that
the same church?
No, I don't go to that church anymore. Some bad things happened, and here's the thing I learned about that. Okay, and it could have gone one of two ways. The devil will attack you and try to change things that are in your life that shouldn't be there for the good, to try to take you off course, right? So this happened, and there was some monetary damage done to me, a lot, and I was very, very hardened
By one of the priests.
Yeah, by the pastor. I was very upset, and so was my wife, and
not to cut you off, but I know why you brought that message up, but like, come on, you're in the house of God, and you're supposed to be like.
I know.
But,
I saw
like
it.
You said
it happened.
Attacks the.
But the message was like, this pastor's message was right on. Like everything he said, like the words that, just like the bad guy that he used in business to get me to church to begin with.
Yep.
right? God, when I say he, God,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? God will put people in your life at the right time. And when it's time for him to go, he makes it very clear.
Yeah.
Right? Now, forgiveness is huge. I forgive everybody for what happened now because I understand it put me on the path I'm on. I have to be here, right?
Yeah, I
So-
say that all the time. I'm supposed to be here.
You have to be. And if that bad stuff didn't happen, you couldn't continue forward where you're at now
Yeah.
and teach other people.
And I would have never been doing this.
You never would have done this. This message never would have got out. Somebody, even if, like I said, one person hears this message and it changes their life.
It's gonna.
And that's the only reason, like I said.
And that's why I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not about you know, it's funny. If somebody said to me about, actually, my cousin said it to me. He goes, you know, you're not doing this to like be Joe Rogan. I go, Joe Rogan, he knows who I am, right? So I'm like, no, I want to be better than Joe Rogan. Like I said, Joe Rogan didn't know he was going to be Joe Rogan. I said, who knows where this goes? I go, I just want to help people.
Right.
And if it happens to be that I'm Joe Rogan 10 years from now,
So be it.
fantastic.
So be it.
Then that's what my calling was.
And you're never going to know if you don't try, right?
Exactly.
So I was telling you about the church that I got involved in and everything else, and the pastor wanted me to open up some thrift stores, and just turns out that I'm a businessman and I saw an opportunity, so I go full speed ahead, and I had 3 warehouses. Just by the time everything was done, I had forklifts, trailers, warehouses, everything.
Did you own them?
Yeah, not the warehouses, but no, I didn't. The pastor actually owned the real estate, and I was his best tenant.
Now
now
the
you're
story.
you're starting to get the picture.
Now,
Okay.
1 + 1 equals 2. I got you.
So this is the way it started to work out and shape up. I felt like I was doing the right thing. Now, even if this one story I tell you is the reason why I went there, it was 100% worth me losing over $100,000. Okay. I would stand when I was trying to get my stores going. One thing I'm really good at is marketing. Okay. I read this one book when I was a kid, written by an author named J. Conrad Levinson, called Guerrilla Marketing Attack. And this is before there was internet, before there was anything. It was all just old-fashioned, put flyers on car windshields, pass your business card out, go meet people.
Foot canvas.
You know what I mean?
Knock on
yes,
doors.
exactly. So what I would do is I would get things donated to the store from all over the place. I would visit local paint stores, and they would have, if you mix the paint the wrong color and your wife doesn't like it, she brings it back to the store. Well, the store would keep a pallet full of this paint for me in the back, and I would come pick it up, and they would donate it to me, and they'd get a write-off. Okay? So I'd end up with all this paint. Now, being from Jersey and being a good old-fashioned marketer, what I would do is I'd get a big old piece of plywood and a pallet, and I would hand paint it on there. Paint, $1 a gallon. And I would stick the pallet out front, and people would just show up. I mean, I had a warehouse on 41, so people would just come off the street in droves, So, I did that with clothing. I had just thousands of pounds of clothing donated. Like, you can't even imagine the amount of clothing we'd had. And
like good shit or just
no, all good stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the best, from manufacturers, from other thrift stores. I just had so much clothing that I had to go out and buy all racks, and I had all kinds of stuff. So we had a whole clothing just room, probably about 3,000 square feet of just clothing. Oh. So I would have a sign outside that would say clothing, $10 a bag, all you could fit in the bag. And I would let people come in with garbage bags, because it was an area where people needed help anyway.
Right.
And if you're shopping at a thrift store, I was the guy that needed help. I know what it's like.
Right.
So if I'm getting all this stuff donated, and I can give a mother, a hardworking mom who's maybe a single mom, who's trying to buy school clothes for her kids, a bag, and say, fill it up for $10, how valuable is that to her?
The best.
Right? So I would stand at the door when all these people came through, and I had all these postcards made up, and I would if you walked through my store, you'd meet me, because I'd stand and I'd hand you a card. And the postcard was our church logo, and it invited you to church. And I would say, hey, how you doing? My name's Bill Ball. I'm the manager of the store. We're a church store. I wanted to let you know. And we do free breakfast on Sundays. If you want to come out Sunday, you're more than welcome to come. So go ahead and shop around. If you see something you like, let me know. So I'd say that to everybody that came through the door. Okay?
How many people came to breakfast?
One day the pastor pulls me to the side and he goes, I don't know what you're doing, but you've single-handedly doubled the size of this church in the last month.
I said, you're a flat-out businessman.
And I said, I'm just inviting people. You
Right.
know, that's all I'm doing.
It's putting your hand out and trying to help.
So this one lady walks to the door, right? And I said this 1,000 times. I said it to her, same thing. And she looks at me and she says, oh, sweetheart, God gave up on me a long time ago. And I was just really a new, naive, young Christian learning about God.
I got goosebumps.
Right? Wait till you hear the rest of this. I'm just learning about God. I don't know what I don't know, but I'm liking what I'm learning.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I said to her, just pure honesty, I said, that's not the God I'm learning about. She said to me, God gave up on me a long time ago. I said, that's not the God that I'm learning about. In fact, I heard a story that, you know, he'll come running to you with open arms if you even ask him a question.
Right.
You know, I'm like, that's the God that I want to serve. I'm like, so why don't you come to church on Sunday and learn what I'm learning? And, you know, you might think differently about it. I might just do that. I said, what's your name? She said, my name's Shelly. I said, well, Shelly, it's been really nice to meet you. I said, go ahead and shop around, and, you know, if there's something you like here, just let me know. So she goes and she shops around, and she leaves. She says goodbye, and she comes to church that Sunday. I was shocked. I'm like, oh, it's great to see you here. She sat through the message. She comes the next Sunday. She's a regular attendee of the church now at this point, right? I was shocked. The pastor pulls me to the side one day and he said, I have to tell you something. And I asked Shelly if I could share this with you before. I said, sure, go right ahead. Do you remember the day she came to your store? I said, I remember. And you greeted her with a card? I said, yep. He says, here's what you didn't know. That she had a bottle of pills in her glove compartment. And she was going home to take them that day. When she saw your sign on the side of the road, and she decided to pull in, and then she met you. And then you invited her to church.
That's incredible.
And I said, you mean that I can change somebody's life just by talking to them like that?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. I said, Pastor, I'm not going to use his name. I said, Pastor, I don't understand what's happening. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, anything I pray for, I get instantly. Instantly. I said, we pray for our house to sell in New Jersey. The next day I get an unsolicited email from my tenant offering me more money than I would have got if I listed it, and it sells within 2 weeks and I have the money in the bank. From one prayer. And I didn't even want to sell the house. I argued with my wife in the prayer. We didn't even know how to pray. We were holding hands. And I'm like, I don't know how to pray. Let's just hold hands and pray about it. What do you want? She goes, I want a house in New Jersey to sell. And I'm like, I don't want to sell the house. And she goes, well, Bill, you know, I said, why not? I said, because I grew up in that house. She goes, Bill, you had a miserable childhood. You had a terrible childhood growing up there.
Right.
I said, well, I guess you're right. Okay, well, if it's meant to be, let it sell. The house sells 2 weeks later, the money's in the bank, more money than I could have asked for, right? All these things start happening. All these prayers start getting answered, like boom, 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 right? So I said to the pastor, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, why? You know, you don't understand. I wasn't the best guy.
Yeah, me neither.
I said, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve what. He goes, stop right there. It's got nothing to do with what you deserve. God knows your heart, and God works best through broken vessels. And he said, he's showing off to you right now. He's showing you what he can do. And I'm like, well, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Does he keep showing off to you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
And then, you know, within 3 years of that, we ended up on welfare the second time in our lives. So when you go from making millions of dollars to welfare, back to making millions of dollars and back to welfare, it's very humbling. So the last thing I want to share with, you know, everybody for this episode, I don't know if we're going to cut it off here, but is that it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what you did.
No.
one of the things that this wise pastor said to me was, Bill, you might not have been the best guy, but let me explain something to you. He said, the Bible, 1/3 of the Bible was written by a mass murderer.
That's incredible.
And I said, what do you mean? He says, the story of Paul, knocked him off his horse. He killed Christians. I said, oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I said, so yeah, you're right. He can use anybody, anywhere, anytime. But even after I found God, and even after all these prayers were answered, we still ended up on welfare. And then I'll tell you what that did to my wife, right? Because after that, after a pastor taking advantage of you monetarily.
Yeah, how did I gotta know, how did you get past that?
It hurt me, but
we're the same people. Like the guy who beat me for the money was a very, very close friend, and things have happened in my life that I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I would never do that to I don't think I would do it to somebody I hated.
Yeah.
Never mind, I'm supposed to be your close friend, and this is somebody
God's messenger, right?
Yeah.
So how do priests do terrible things to young kids? I mean, so here's it's a struggle, right? But the devil uses these things to turn you against God, to try to, and it worked for actually a pretty good time for my wife, because my wife actually got very turned off by the whole experience, and
I'm surprised she went back.
And it's been a struggle, but she still has faith, and we haven't really gotten too involved in a church again, because I believe you don't have to go to church to have a relationship with God. It's great to have a place to plug into in a community and all that stuff, and I'd love to be part of a community again like that.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful.
I know.
And
that's how outgoing we are as people. And I think you might have told me this over the phone, because my wife is the same way now. She's like, we get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
It bothers me. It angers me, because that's not something me or you would do to anybody.
No.
Like, I would give my last dollar to somebody if I knew it could help them. But we have people that take from us and have no remorse. No remorse.
So one of my ideas was this, and maybe this is why we're here.
Yeah.
If we could have a free church, like Jesus used to do it, he'd pull up on a boat and talk to people on the beach.
Yeah.
It didn't cost anything. I believe that churches have become this huge, massive machine with overhead, buildings and overhead.
And it goes back to money.
And they have to have the money to run these huge machines, right? It's a machine.
It is.
And I got to see behind the scenes for a few years at the way a church was run, a non-denominational church. And it's a business just like any other business, and it runs like a business. They have electric bills, they have rent, they have staff, they have things that they have to run like a business. And,
Stuff that breaks down, you got to get it fixed.
Right.
So,
and if there was a way that you could run a church and didn't have to pay any money, maybe this is it.
Maybe this is it.
Well, this costs you money because you have to pay the camera guy.
Yeah. That's okay though. He's worth it. He's worth it.
So but if there's a way we could do it for free, and not have to make people feel obligated that they have to donate. If you want to out of your heart, just do it. But I think that it's become such a machine, and my experience was poor. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that's the experience for everybody.
Yeah.
But, I got to see behind the scenes. I saw how it ran. I saw it was like a business, and I didn't really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, and you're a businessman, so it's funny. It's funny how that happens to me too. People see success, and it's not always what you're wearing. It's just how you carry yourself, what you talk about, and then stuff like that it's almost like they gravitate towards us. Yeah. And they want to see, and and then you open up your heart and you open up your mind, and then all of a sudden you turn around and they pickpocket you.
Well, so one of the things that caught my attention after I started to open my eyes when I got involved was I saw a lot of people come through the doors at the church, okay? And depending on the kind of car you drove, depending on if the pastor took you out to dinner or not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we rolled in a brand new Escalade. And we already the antenna was up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
He saw ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm at fault for that. I just say that to my wife. Sometimes you go for a quote for something and don't let's not tell them we used to live in Country Club.
Right.
Because if they know we used to live in Country Club, they're going to add 10,000 to that. Like, you stop talking. Yeah. Stop talking. And a lot of times it's me saying stuff. I got to keep my mouth shut.
I'll leave you with one last thing, because this is I love these kind of things. Like, I'm
so glad you came.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really glad I showed up, man.
Yeah.
And so my whole life I've always lived it this way. If you look like a hobo or you look like you're worth $1 million, I'm going to treat you the same way, right?
Same. Me too.
So I used to have a construction business in New Jersey, like I told you about.
Yep.
And one of the ways that we would generate business was we would do these shows at the malls. We would set up like booths at the malls.
Yeah. I remember those. Yeah.
I set up like I would have tractors come into the malls and put boulders.
Shocker. Yeah. Shocker.
I'd put boulders and have waterfalls and sod and everything, right? So one day this couple walks up to my booth, right? And they look like rough, like holes in their clothes, dirty. The kids were dirty, and everything else. And I noticed a lot of people weren't paying attention to them as they were walking through there. So they stopped at my booth, and I was chatting with them. We were having a nice conversation. And they said, I was just getting started in business too. I was young. I was just getting started out, and I didn't have a lot. And but I treated them just like regular people. And I'm like, would you like me to make an appointment to come out and take a look at your house and see if there's something I can help you with? Yeah, we're thinking about doing some things at the house. So yeah, sure. And I'm thinking, maybe I'm pulling up to a shack. Maybe I don't know, but maybe I can give them some ideas.
Pull up to a mansion.
I pull up to a freaking mansion. I leave there with a $40,000 deposit check. So that's why my wife says to me, "Why are you going to do an interview with TJ? You don't even know the guy."
Yeah.
I said, "Because I just show up.
You just show up.
I just show up.
Serious.
Whatever happens, happens."
That's half the battle in life.
Right.
It really is.
I show up.
And I'm so glad that you showed up.
I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, honestly, you're gonna touch so many hearts today.
I hope we do. That's my prayer. I hope we touch somebody.
We will. It's there's a reason why we were supposed to meet, and if I didn't have a leak in my roof, and if Gayla and Angus didn't recommend you because you do great work, we wouldn't be here today. So, and by the way, if you do need a roof fix, this is the man. This is the man.
That's what I currently do.
Yeah. He's the best. Yeah, outside of all the other companies he's run and sold, and this right now in Florida, he's the guy. You know what? And he's somebody that I trust, and that goes a long way with me. Even though I keep getting burnt by other people, loyalty is something my dad taught me, and it's something that I believe in. And here's the thing: I say this all the time. Yeah. Reflecting is perfect. You can't, and I say this all the time, you can't live in the past because that creates anger, and you can't live in the future, that creates fear. But if you live in the moment, that's the best place to live. Yeah. But you have to reflect back to remember all the things, and we have to share all that stuff with everybody. Yeah. Because, like I told you, most successful guys don't want to talk about their failures. Right. They don't. It's just part of life, and I think we should be talking about it because we're human.
So the next time we get together, I want to give you a little thing I want to share with you. When we get together again, the day I had to tell my wife we were broke, that we had to go on welfare the second time, she had no idea. Oh boy. Okay, and we sat down in a room like this in the house we had called the prayer room, and I told her, and she started crying, and she says, "What are we going to do now?" And I said, "I don't know, honey, but I'll tell you what. I've been reading a lot of inspirational books, and I'm not worried because I know it's going to work out okay." I said, "We need to pray, though." She says, "What do you want to pray about?" I said, "I want to pray for the truth." And she said, "Well, okay." I said, "Everybody's been lying to me and stealing from me, including the pastor." I said, "But I just want the truth." I said, if I knew the truth instinctively, without having to think about it, that's all I need the rest of my life. Right. I don't need money. That'll come. I don't need anything else except being able to understand what the truth is and discern the truth. Right. Within 1 hour, the phone rang. A guy calls me that I had done business with years ago. You know what he says to me on the phone? "Hey, Bill, what are you doing right now?" I said, "Well, Tom, I just have some things going on, but what do you have in mind?" He says, "I got to come share the truth with you." Come on. I swear to God. And that meeting that he came to my house led me to my next business that we built to a $100 million business within 2 years. Holy shit. It went global. It went global. It went to the Philippines, to Europe, to Australia, to Japan. It was crazy.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. This man is, he's something else. I can't wait to have him back. Please continue to follow and listen, subscribe to all our social media pages. And thank you so much, and God bless.